Nuestra siguiente ponente es Caroline Gaillard, nacida en Versalles. Se graduó en la Rennes School of Business, a través de la cual obtuvo una licenciatura en Artes y un máster en Ciencias de Marketing Internacional. Trabaja como ingeniera de servicios culturales para el Ministerio de Cultura y Comunicación de Francia. En este cargo trabaja desde hace 15 años en museos nacionales. Participa en varios proyectos creativos amateurs, fanzines, juegos, escritura, etc. Practica la genealogía como aficionada, enriqueciendo su perspectiva con las habilidades adquiridas profesionalmente y en entornos asociativos. Caroline.
Thank you very much for having me today. I'm very honored to be with you for this first Young Genealogist Congress. I've been indeed working for museums in France, historical houses, and as a professional in museums, our goal is to preserve, to study important patrimony, but also to transmit this patrimony, to share information with the widest audience possible. My presentation today will not be about outcome of researches, but I want to tackle ways of presenting genealogy information. I will use examples from family genealogies, but I think these different techniques can be used for the widest subjects possible. As a child, I used to stare with wide eyes at the family tree that proudly stood in a frame at my grand-aunt's house. It had been filled in by hand and would never change, displaying a collection of mysterious names and dates that were so far away from us that they seemed almost imaginary. This paper-based genealogy was the reality that many genealogists worked with during the 20th century. In the year 2000 saw the emergence of new digital tools, starting with genealogy softwares, which have been constantly improved over the years. The arrival of internet in daily life has enabled an exponential increase in exchanges. It has never been easier to make your tree grow, to add multiple branches. And yet, we are often confronted with a lasting frustration, the lack of interest of some of our closed ones regarding the data we have acquired through passion. A collection of dates can indeed quickly seem tedious, especially at a time when we are used to receiving simplified, efficient, lively, and entertaining information. Sharing research beyond the circle of enthusiasts can quickly become a challenge when confronted with non-experts who have little interest in SOSA, collateral, or JETCOM. Fortunately, the same era offers tools that the genealogist can use to pass on family memory, but by captivating his audience in a contemporary context. Marine Soulaz had already raised this question in her Hoodstack intervention. In this paper, I would like to add to our work. I want to take a look at alternative forms of sharing one's family tree. The aim is to inspire. Why not take up the challenge of presenting your genealogy differently? I've chosen to divide these new formats depending on the goal that they pursue. Firstly, the tools that enable to transmit information. Secondly, the tools that will make it possible to challenge, surprise, and arouse curiosity. For each format, 3 questions will be asked. For whom is it most suitable? Then we will look at your profile. Are you more of an academic, having collected a lot of data? Do you enjoy informatic tools, or are you allergic to them? Are you an artist at heart? Do you like the visual arts or layout? Depending on your strengths, one form of sharing may be more suitable than another. Finally, after illustrating each format with examples, the advantages and disadvantages of each will be discussed. Well, now that we have set the basics and the context, let's get down to business. And that's the drawback of choosing a video. Ancestor cards. I first saw this concept on American websites, and there is no doubt that it was inspired by trading cards, which some may have collected as children. But this specific format also ties in with a way of conveying information that became popular in the last decades: infographics, the simplified visual representation of often complex information. This way of presenting information has become popular in recent years, in a context where we seek to acquire knowledge quickly and efficiently. Why not also use it in genealogy? Each ancestor will be represented on a single card, displaying key information about them. The cards should all adopt the same structure in order to create a coherent logic of series, a uniformity. The aim is to make reading effective, despite the amount of information provided. Ancestor cards are particularly suitable for sharing with family members. Experienced genealogists will not necessarily find any more information than in your family tree. However, for relatives, it offers an interesting synthesis. After a short reading, with limited effort, one has understood the key facts about an individual. The main advantage of these cards lies in their customizable format. On my cards, you may have noticed a small drawing indicating the astrological sign of the ancestor. Their synthetic aspect will also help to avoid overwhelming the reader with information. And it's a useful working document for a genealogist. Keeping it close when working in an archive department can be a real time saver. Finally, the collection quest effect should not be overlooked in order to create interest from your audience. However, there are several disadvantages to ancestor cards. On the one hand, they require a great deal of preparatory work, not only to create the layout, but to build up an exhaustive information base for each ancestor. On the other hand, since the space they offer is limited, you will have to sort out the relevant information to be included, which might prove difficult. Finally, as a corollary, filling in a card regarding so-called invisible ancestors, to quote Élise Lenoble, may prove difficult without the text about them being a simple statement of dry facts. Moving on to podcasts. The popularity of this new media is growing. It is increasingly listened to while traveling or carrying out another task, a real advantage in our multitasking society and a possibility that written media do not offer. In 2022, there are dozens of genealogical podcasts, mostly in English, but most of them focus on a methodological angle. Why not create podcasts that will trace the destiny of a special ancestor, in your own words, in your own voice? It should be remembered, however, that just like video making, creating a podcast requires an investment. Technical, first of all, in order to get quality recordings. Your audience is likely used to a certain level of professionalism, even from amateur channels. The production of such content also requires a lot of time and technical expertise. Not only do you have to record, but also write your script. De-render, calibrate, edit. Each step requires specific skills and tools. Just like video, audio doesn't forgive. And if your sound quality or editing dynamics fail, there is no guarantee that you will keep your audience attention. Finally, and I think this point is important, you need to find the right tone and format for you and your audience. Is it better to be serious, or should you use a certain dose of humor, like Marina Rollman in her series Best Story Ever? Listen to as many podcasts as you can, in various fields, to get inspiration and create content that suits you, and that will also be able to interest others. Oh. Artistic creations. With podcasts, we have entered the realm of tools designed to capture interest through surprise. You can achieve the very same wow effect without being a computer expert, by using three-dimensional formats or layout. Creative hobbies are popular. I have no doubt that genealogists with the soul of an artist are hiding among you today. Why not mix your different passions? scrapbooking, watercolors, calligraphy, baubles to be hung on the Christmas tree. Some trees have been turned into nearly contemporary artwork through the work of professional graphic designers. Each of these have a distinct visual identity. You will be the first audience of these creations, since it will be placed in your daily universe, but all your relatives, family, friends, guests will also be surprised by such format. Creative hobbies are often motivated by a desire to decorate one's home, to offer gifts, or to create. Studies have underlined the very positive aspects that these activities offer for those who practice them: stress reduction, improvement of cognitive function, social link. These formats also are a way of expressing your own personality and tastes. Your creations will draw attention in an original way to the names and potential faces of your ancestors. Finally, they are a way of keeping your ancestors in your daily life. You will always see them out of the corner of your eyes in important moments of your life. This format of sharing your family history is mainly reserved for genealogists who have an artistic soul, who like creative hobbies or DTP. Otherwise, you will have to rely on the talent of a professional, which implies costs beyond our supplies. Moreover, if this tool relies on the wow effect, in the end, it displays rather little information. And unless you take a picture or make copies of it, it will be more difficult to share it widely, unlike digital publications. On a more fun aspect, we can move on to play materials, games. Marine Soulas had discussed this format, but I want to add further elements to this approach. Why not share your genealogy in the form of a board game? Unless you are particularly keen on games, I am not suggesting that you create a new game from scratch, inventing new rules and game materials. Instead, you could emulate existing game, keeping the mechanics but adapting the game materials so it recalls your ancestors. The easiest way is to go through a professional. Photo printing websites often offer to make this kind of products using your photos. You can also buy second-hand game boxes and personalize them by sticking your own pre-printed illustrations onto the board games and materials, unless you choose to recreate the game materials from scratch. Finally, some sites offer to make these personalized games online in an entirely digital form. Of course, this format is much more suitable for family and friends, and these creations will require skills in the field of hobbies or DTP rather than expertise in the field of genealogy. I often use game mechanisms during training sessions that I lead, and I can easily see the advantages of these formats. They are aimed at everyone, whatever the age of the participants. They offer an opportunity for structured play, entertainment, and educational purposes. This is in the eyes of the creative family historian what sharing or genealogies should be: structured, playful, educational. Above all, the games make those around you active, which is at the heart of edutainment. In addition, they will generate very positive memories, a living image of genealogy, which becomes a place for sharing and not a dusty hobby. Finally, as it can be used without guidance, it makes an interesting gift for the youngest and is very suitable for a cousin meeting. You can simply leave the game material at your guest's disposal to use it as they wish. However, they are difficult to share widely, except by creating copies. They require skills in terms of creative hobbies and layout, and above all, beyond the fun aspect that will capture attention, they ultimately display little information about your ancestor. Prudence Dwyer also notes that any error can only be corrected by reprinting. Finally, the visual aspect will be decisive for some of the games mentioned. Your work will have a greater impact if it uses portraits of your ancestor, but they may have disappeared. And my last part will be about Advent calendar. sticking to a topic which might seem to be reserved for children, but which can actually appeal to anyone. Over the past few years, advent calendars have become popular amongst all ages. Rather than buying your calendar, you can actually make it yourself as a gift for loved ones. Why not use your genealogy as the focal point of this creation? How can you fill a genealogy calendar? In keeping with tradition, which is a calendar for people with a sweet tooth, you could add sweets and specialties from your ancestral regions of origins, local recipes cards, family recipes passed down from one generation to the next. You could combine genealogy and Christmas themes and include personalized ornaments displaying symbols of the origins, coat of arms, portraits. You could also add lyrics or recordings of regional Christmas songs. Family history could be celebrated by inserting in the Advent calendar old postcards representing the places where your ancestors lived, personalized memory tile, copies of pretty old photos. One could also use the Advent calendar to assert themselves as the family genealogists or to spread the virus with an ancestor card, a link to a personalized online quiz, a blank family tree to be completed with labels to be stuck on, or even a USB key containing the JetCom file, with a few explanations, of course. Finally, an Advent calendar is an opportunity to link the past and the present, and to offer small gestures to strengthen links between those who are still alive. You could add a calendar from the year your parents were born, a record of a song that your grandparents loved, a bottle of perfume that your aunt used to wear. Or ask all members of your extended family to send a video message and unveil these recordings throughout the month. The benefits of using an Advent calendar are closely linked with the magic that surrounds Christmas. Brands have understood the full impact of these media for adults. By offering a small daily moment for oneself, they soften a month of December that is sometimes complicated because of the cold, of the pressure of preparing for the holidays, or because of isolation. Through this, they create an emotional link to their products and introduce their offer. Opening an Advent calendar will maintain the receiver's surprise and interest towards the genealogy, and this tool will for sure offer a bit of happiness, while fully embracing personalization. This time, it's not necessarily only the personality of the creator that will shine, but the whole family, past and present, that will be found there. In terms of drawbacks, we should point out the very long time and the foresight required for such a project. It's not only a question of identifying the components of the calendar, but also of obtaining them or creating them, and then carefully presenting them, whether virtually or in reality. The clock starts ticking long before Advent begins. In addition, there is a financial cost multiplied by the number of copies that will be created, as well as the potential difficulty of finding 24 surprises to unveil. The reactions of the receivers, however, should be worth the investment. We've come to the end of this little tour. Has it inspired you? I hope so. It is now February, so you have many months left to make a game that will liven up your family holidays or cousins' meetings, or to start making books, cards, artworks that could be placed under the Christmas tree. Or maybe you'll tackle the challenge of creating your own podcast channel. These are undoubtedly challenges that will take you away from the traditional way of doing genealogy, but that are all the more likely to attract the attention of your relatives. Genealogy companies have understood this, and they are creating here and there projects that echo this question. The Revue Française de Généalogie, for example, started last year a section called Un ancêtre, une histoire, inviting readers who wish to do so to send a text concerning an ancestor. This may catch some relatives' attention by discovering an article published in a national magazine. I bet that this kind of projects will multiply in the future. The innovations of the MyHeritage website are proof of this, particularly the Deep Story tool, an incredible way to maximize the wow effect. So I look forward to what professionals in the sector will offer to accompany these developments in the future. Thank you for listening, and I hope to have made you smile at least a little bit. And for those who are interested in such topic, I can only recommend to check the généalogie community. It's in French, but there are lots of tutorials to learn how to present information in a different way in relation to genealogy.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Caroline. Es muy interesante ver las diferentes aplicaciones que puede tener la genealogía en el mundo diario, en el mundo del entretenimiento, en el mundo comercial. Es precisamente una de las líneas que habíamos expuesto en el temario, que no siempre es tratada con el detalle que merece. Muchas gracias. Ahora vamos a terminar con la ponencia de Caroline. Vamos a terminar el ciclo de ponencias de esta mañana. Vamos a pasar a comer aquí en la asociación a aquellas personas que lo deseen y volveremos después de la comida a las 4 de la tarde con el turno de tarde que va a comenzar Giuseppe Alessandro.